It's been ages since I've done a ranking video, so let's do this. Just before we start, I want to make it clear that I don't think there's one single bad expansion or world in this mod, but I did find some to be better than others, so that's what we're going to be ranking them based on in this video. And we're going to be making the rankings based on 3 categories: levels, plants, and zombies. I'm going to be ranking each of these categories for each world on a scale from E to S, with E obviously being the lowest and S being the highest. And then I'll take the average score from those 3 categories, and that'll be the tier given to the world on the tier list that we'll be making throughout the video. Also, join the Discord community of fellow Plants vs Zombies 2 degenerates. This is going to be a long one, so let's not beat around the bush any longer and crack on with it.
I bought a property in Egypt, and what they do...
In case you didn't know, Plants vs Zombies 2 Reflourished adds both new worlds and new world expansions to the game. So, in the case of Ancient Egypt, days 1 to 25 are identical to the base game, while there are 10 brand new levels, days 26 to 35, added on top by the mod. First, we'll cover all of these expansions to the existing vanilla worlds and rank them based on the new sets of levels added to them. Also, whenever I refer to vanilla, I'm talking about the base game of Plants vs Zombies 2. Day 27 is a fun concept. You need to produce 9,000 sun while simultaneously fending off hordes of raw zombies that are constantly trying to steal it. However, I didn't like the pretty absurd explorer sandstorms in the level. Even if they were a unique way of removing sun producers from deep in your setup, it just felt a bit annoying really. Day 28 is decent, but I actually lost to it. Maybe it's a skill issue, but I feel like it may be a little too full on for the 3rd level in the mod. Well, at least the Reflourished devs didn't lean into making Ancient Egypt a mind-numbingly easy tutorial world. Looking at you, vanilla. Days 29 and 30 are built on a very fun concept, combining bowling bulb and gravestone mechanics. This is a unique concept not explored in vanilla for obvious reasons. Day 31's objective of destroying gravestones is subtle yet effective in making you change up your plant lineup to accommodate for it. Day 34 is another interesting one, with sandstorms and mold colonies combining to effectively reduce your lawn from 9 columns to 6 columns. However, I found this level to be uncharacteristically easy. In fact, in my experience, this world's expansion feels like it gets easier instead of harder as you progress, so it loses points for having a very skewed difficulty curve. Apart from that though, I thoroughly enjoyed these levels, A tier. Snow Pea is fine here. It does obviously tie into the world as it puts out the Explorer and Torchlight Zombies torches. And I am a fan of how they balanced it so that it strikes a middle ground between its weak pre-buff and OP post-buff forms in vanilla. And Squash is definitely Squash. C tier. Pyramid Head and Torchlight Zombie are both direct ports from vanilla, but Torchlight Zombie has a fresh new coat of paint. They do their jobs well enough here. B tier. Overall, I enjoyed this world. Since Ancient Egypt isn't a very versatile or mind-blowing world in the base game, I respect what the Reflourished team managed to pull off here, especially with the fun level concepts. The Ancient Egypt expansion gets a comfortable B tier ranking. I'm a big fan of this world in vanilla, which makes it more painful to say that the new levels here in Reflourished didn't quite meet my expectations. There are 2 standouts though. Day 30 has a plankless lane filled with mold with an endangered potato mine at the end, which makes for some intense gameplay. Day 31 also uses mold colonies in an interesting way, as they cover the whole back half of the lawn, so you have to use Split Pea and Hurricane to hit the zombies. Apart from these 2 levels though, I was indifferent to all the rest. There was one level I actually disliked, Day 33. It's essentially a sequel to Vanilla's Day 22 where there are no plank lanes, but this level is a normal level, whereas Day 22 was a last stand level. I found that this difference makes the level pretty clunky and unnatural, not to mention that it basically ends before it even begins. I did find it funny how Time Warp just insta-kills everything in this level though, so I'll give it that, it did get a chuckle out of me. Overall, these levels are consistently less exciting and ambitious than Ancient Egypt's. C tier. I'm definitely a fan of the new and improved Spring Bean and Apple Mortar. Apple Mortar's addition here feels natural, as its multi-lane attacks work well with the different plank and lane structures, like a successor to 3-Peter's role in this world. Iceweed also fits in here with its fellow spiky brethren, but I found it strange that it's unlocked right as the pelican zombie is introduced. That gave me some vanilla Neon Mixtape Tour plant vibes, not gonna lie. But this plant does synergize well with the existing Pirate Seas plants, slowing zombies to allow Coconut Cannon time to recharge, and Cherry Bomb to blow them all up clumped together. The plants and balance changes here harmonize well with the world and brought a breath of fresh air that the levels didn't. B tier. I genuinely have nothing to say about the zombies here. Neither of them are original nor given a visual overhaul like the Torchlight Zombie was. C tier. Reflourished Pirate Seas is average. The levels and zombies are ordinary and the plant selections and reworks are pretty good. A solid C tier world. Now this is the expansion I've been waiting for. Fair warning, basically every level here is worth mentioning, so strap in for a Reflourished Wild West Yappuccino. Day 27 makes fun use of minecarts and endangered pea pods such that you have to weave them between prospectors. Day 28 is a simple yet effective level, introducing the new Stampede mechanic, which I really enjoyed. The Stampede mechanic rewards you for using the new and improved tool nut, more on that later, and the minecarts to block the charging bulls. On the topic of minecarts, I'm very grateful that the minecart tracks here were far less invasive than in vanilla Wild West. I hate how vanilla made the minecart tracks constantly block your end of the lawn, essentially holding you hostage until you used them. However, in this expansion, they feel more like an optional addition that you can use at your own discretion. This makes it feel far more rewarding when you do choose to actually use your brain cells and use the minecarts to your advantage, since it doesn't feel like an obligation anymore. I really like this added flexibility. I'll give Reflourished credit here. I never in a million years thought I'd ever have something good to say about minecarts, since I hate them so much in vanilla. Day 30 is another fun one that uses minecarts in a way that had me on my toes for the whole level. Admittedly, by day 32 I was getting a little tired of the repeated use of the endangered plants objective in this expansion, but I guess it's to be expected with the minecarts and such. Although I will give this level credit, I really like the concept of using mushrooms to block the rodeo legend attacks. It's a creatively fun way of introducing their gimmick. Day 33 is perhaps the best level in this mod, and that's absolutely not something I was expecting to say about a not okay corral level. In vanilla, I despise these levels. They're all very monotone and uninspired, but this level uses a larger variety of unique plants, such as Hypnoshroom to kill chickens. And this Hypnoshroom mechanic is implemented a lot better here than in Vanilla's Wild West Day 35, aka the Wild West Wipeout Zomboss battle, aka that one level. I also found the use of minecarts to encourage recharging the bowling bulbs a very intuitive and rewarding part of the level. Again, this mod's use of minecarts puts Vanilla's to shame. These levels were exciting, creative, and quashed every gripe I have with Vanilla Wild West. You can't really ask for much more than that coming from expansion levels. Chef's kiss, the Reflourished team were really cooking here. S tier. Tumbleweed was an obvious choice thematically, but it also complements the zombies pretty well here. For example, you can use it to push back and stall groups of bull zombies as they run down a lawn. Ultimato is even more excellent here, encouraging the use of minecarts to direct its expensive heavy attacks that are great for shredding tanky threats like bulls, pianists, and minecart heads. As for balance changes, Lightning Reed's added sunk cost makes it slightly less brain dead without making it useless. I'm also a big fan of Tool Nut's change. In vanilla, I don't think I've ever used it once, but here I found myself using it a fair bit. I'm pretty indifferent to Melon Pult and Wintermelon's changes. They still kind of feel the same but slightly worse, which I guess is what they were going for. Ultimato and Tumbleweed's great harmony with the mechanics and zombies in this world, paired with the abundance of balancing the existing Wild West plants, justifies an A tier ranking. Much like Pirate Seas, the new zombies here were just taken from vanilla world expansions, but I feel like the veteran zombies were used a lot better here than the Pirate Seas expansion. A key example being the Rodeo Legends in Day 32, as I discussed before. B tier. This expansion just felt right. The mechanics of the levels, plants, and zombies were all woven together very well. I'm not a fan of Vanilla Wild West, in case you couldn't tell already. It's one of my least favorite worlds, so the fact that I found Reflourished expansion to be so fresh and exciting is a testament to how well the devs have crafted it. Huge props to the Reflourished team if you're watching. A very convincing A tier. Day 28 is a pretty entertaining Sunbombs level where you have to time coconut cannons and EM peaches to weave the shots between shield robots and jetpacks. However, the Sunbombs don't really add anything to the level. In fact, this level could be a regular old level without Sunbombs and nothing would change. It's a bit of a shame because I would have liked to see how the mod could have put their own spin on the gimmick, like they did with the Not Okay Corral in Wild West. Day 29 basically just vomits power tile plant food abilities all over the screen. Sure, this is fun to play, but it doesn't make for the most intellectual gameplay experience. This is unrelated to the levels themselves, but I like how they constructed a level map on planets from Vanilla Far Future's backdrop. This is a nice touch that helps make the expansion feel more new. I've always disliked Vanilla Far Future for feeling like a drag because of all the slow tanky zombies which are just boring to play against. Unfortunately, this problem still lingers a bit in Reflourished expansion. Day 30, for example, took me ages to beat, but not because it was difficult. I beat it first try, in fact. It just took so damn long due to all the Gargantua Primes, Discotrons, Cone Mechs, you name it. I'll give them credit for adding the jetpack attack ambush, which speeds up the pace a little bit and adds some excitement. But this issue also plagued Day 31, which could have been a thrilling level given the creative use of power tiles. But by the end of the level, my finger was hurting from spamming magnifying glass shots to deal with the tanky and incessant mechs. But at last, day 33 was the breath of fresh air I was waiting for, with a limit of 7 plants and far less robots in favor of smaller units like jetpacks. This speeds up the pace of the level and feels so much better to play than the other arduous far future levels in both vanilla and this mod itself. Unfortunately though, this felt like too little too late. Unlike Reflourished Wild West levels, these levels didn't do too much to fix my criticisms of vanilla. There is still some enjoyable level design, and I'll give this expansion the benefit of the doubt since, in my opinion, Far Future is a fundamentally flawed world, and there's only so much a mod's levels can do to fix it. Valiant effort, B tier. Zoidbean Pod is a good addition here. It has some good interactions where it gels with the world's mechanics, the most prevalent being zomboids eating mechs while they're shut down and defenseless after an EM peach. Starfruit feels pretty ordinary here as it did in vanilla. I'm not a fan of laser beams balancing really. 275 Sun puts it in this weird grey area where it's too expensive to be your frontline attacker and too cheap to be your heavy hitter. On the contrary, I really like the new and improved Citron. Being cheaper and having a bit of splash irons out its flaws in vanilla, and its plant food was buffed so that it can one-shot a Gargantua Prime like it was able to back in the day. That really hit me right in the nostalgia. B tier. I don't really need to reiterate why I don't like the zombies here since I already went over that in the level segment. The last thing this world needed was more tankier zombies, but what do you know, Hollowhead. The Blastronaut zombie was more of a step in the right direction, but Blover makes it feel identical to a normal jetpack zombie. Again, this is more the fault of PopCap for crafting such an excrement of a zombie lineup than the Reflourished team who were just left to clean it up. However, throughout this expansion, I never thought to myself, wow, that was an interesting way to use that zombie, like I did during the Wild West expansion. D tier. Far Future was basically doomed from the beginning, but props to the Reflourished devs for doing what they could with this mess. Taking the averages ties this world up with Pirate Seas in a C tier. Night 23 uses a fun combo of Hypnoshroom and Evil Potions to create a war between boosted zombies. This was a great spin on the Evil Potions gimmick. Night 24 is an interesting introduction to both the Castlehead zombie and the newly reworked Sunbeam, but more on both of those later. The level itself only allows you to make sun by using Gravebuster on sun gravestones and using sunbeams on the zombies, but you have to produce 5,000 sun. So obviously this encourages you to use sunbeams specifically on the tanky Castleheads to win. This is perhaps the only example in all of Plants vs Zombies 2 where the Brickhead adjacent is used interestingly in a level. Night 26's objective of not losing more than 8 plants is a cool way of showcasing the Dark Summoner's zombies' very fast eating speed, an ability that often goes unnoticed in regular levels. Night 28 is one of the better designed levels in the entire mod. It starts out with a bunch of bandit zombies that you later find out were absolutely necessary to kill or else you wouldn't have enough sun to deal with the copious amounts of Gargantuas, Dark Summoners, and Castleheads later in the level. This makes great use of the new zombies in the expansion, as well as creating a tense experience that exceeds vanilla Dark Ages. This set of levels is very strong. A tier. Thank you so much Reflourished devs for reducing Hypnoshroom's sun cost back down to 75 like it was in the first game. PopCap making this plant 125 sun in vanilla was nothing short of a war crime. Witch Hazel is alright here. Obviously it looks the part in this world, but functionally it doesn't fare too well. There are so many swarming zombies in these levels, especially with a Dark Summoner, that the Puffshroom's Witch Hazel spawns get instantly swallowed up most of the time. It feels very natural and satisfying for Witch Hazel to insta-kill a Castlehead though. I'm a huge fan of Sunbeam's rework to be Zero Sun. It's a lot easier to actually get value out of it. B tier. This world is the first to feature original zombies, which automatically puts it at a huge advantage. Well, Bandit Zombie is technically from the Chinese version of Plants vs Zombies 2, which I'm going to be calling 2C from here on, but its abilities are completely reworked here. Bandit Zombie is kind of like a more frail Yeti zombie that, instead of dropping a lunchbox when killed, drops 75 sun. This is a pretty neat way of throwing more sun into the mix for this world, since obviously there's none coming from the sky. A prime example of this is day 28, where the abundance of bandit zombies at the beginning enables the second half of the level to go absolutely crazy with the zombies. This is uncharacteristic of vanilla Dark Ages, which always needs to assume you didn't have too much sun to work with. Then there's the Dark Summoner zombie. Dark Summoner periodically spawns 4 dragon imps around it, like how the dancing zombie in the first game spawns 4 backup dancers. I do like how the fact that the dragon imps are immune to blasts means that you can't just blow up the Dark Summoner with an instant like Cherry Bomb and be done with it. You additionally have to consider how to deal with the dragon imps too. However, I'm not sure if this world really needed another zombie that locks you into using Fume Shroom. This makes some of the levels feel a bit strategically restrictive, and by that I mean if you don't use a piercing plant like Fume Shroom or Laser Beam, you die. But that's genuinely the only bad thing I have to say about these zombies. They weren't just ports from vanilla, they complemented the world's mechanics very well, and they opened up a lot of creativity in the level design. S tier. Reflourished Dark Ages expansion offers a thoroughly enjoyable package of content right up there with Wild West in the A tier.
Very cheap, £1 fish,
For me, this level has perhaps the most forgettable levels so far. That doesn't mean they're bad, but they're just very ordinary and didn't stand out to me at all. There are a couple of levels I did enjoy more than others though. Day 34 is pretty fun. You have to time coconut cannons and tangle kelps to stop surfer zombies blocking shots with their surfboards. Day 39 uses surfers in a very unique way. Instead of surfing across the screen, the tide ends really early, so they're forced into their land form. By doing this, they basically become shield deployment units for the level, which is a welcome change of pace. Throw in some octo-zombies and bloomerang mechanics and you have yourself a very enjoyable level. One redeeming factor of these levels is that they're a lot more thought out and well balanced than vanilla Big Wave Beach. I never felt like I lost a level because of zombie spam or an unfair amount of octo or fisherman zombies. Proving this point, I never even used or felt like using Infinite for the whole expansion, whereas the fisherman spam in vanilla makes it feel like a necessity in comparison. Chomper and Homing Thistle. Both decent picks and obvious choices since these were the two Big Wave Beach premiums in vanilla. But much like it felt weird for this mod to introduce Iceweed and Pelican Zombie at the same time, it felt clunky to introduce Homing Thistle and Scuba Zombie at the same time. Even though Hot Potato is technically a Frostbite Caves plant, it really feels at home here as it's able to melt octopi, which is pretty hard to miss since basically half the levels force you to use it. C tier. The zombies are good here, I like them. The scuba zombie offers a nice change of pace, being immune to tangle kelp, so you need to think of other strategies like using walls to bait it out of the water. And what do you know, Chomper really likes wall plants, so Scuba Zombie worked well in conjunction with the plants here. The zombies here are clearly a step down from Dark Ages though. They're not really used in any creative ways like they were in Dark Ages. Hell, the two levels I considered worth noting only made use of the existing surfers and octo zombies for their gimmicks. The scuba zombies and shell heads are kinda just thrown in the expansion out of obligation for new zombies. B tier. I don't really have anything else to say here. Reflourished Big Wave Beach was definitely an expansion of all time. It improved on the difficulty and balancing of vanilla, but didn't really do much apart from that. Fittingly, Big Wave Beach gets in the B tier.
We've got another Aussie on ice again.
Day 32 starts out with a full lawn of frozen plants and zombies. You have this one set of plants that you have to keep hot potatoing because of the freezing winds and hunter zombies. This made for a pretty memorable one. Day 34 is a very fun level where you have to plan your defense to beat the zombies frozen in ice at the start of the level. Having to constantly keep an eye on the endangered char guards to make sure they don't get crushed by troglodytes or run out of leaves is a great concept that makes this level even more thrilling. Day 35 uses the snowstorms a lot better than Reflourished Ancient Egypt used the snowstorms. This is because the zombies all snowstorm in behind split peas, and the level gives you plants like walnuts and stunions to hold the zombies back while the split peas do their thing. This makes the level feel like a race against time to steal the zombies as much as possible. Basically, it's Ancient Egypt Day 34, but actually does something interesting instead of just reducing the size of the lawn. Fantastic level design. Day 37 is an insane level, making use of bouncy plants like bowling bulb and tumbleweed to interact with the frozen blocks of zombies and plants. Another genius level concept. Even the Zomboss battle, Day 40, was yet another highlight. The battle feels a bit more challenging than its vanilla counterpart, which I like a lot since Day 30's fight is so easy that you can almost do it blindfolded. This is likely down to the Tuskheads and Robo-Dodos, which add some tankiness to defend Zomboss with. They also added an attack where Zomboss freezes a whole lane of plants, which is a great addition. Not a single level here is dull or boring, and basically all of them make use of the mechanics, plants, and zombies of the world in spectacular ways. Much like Wild West, I'm not a fan of this world in vanilla, so that's saying even more. S tier. Hurricane and Fire Pea are the obvious choices here, and they did their job well. But what really carries the plants of this world are the numerous well-crafted balance changes. Fire Pea's rework makes it feel less like a repeater clone, which is awesome. Pepperpult's seed reload is way quicker in this mod, which is great because in vanilla it feels like the heat death of the universe is gonna happen before you can get one of these guys on a lawn. A tier. This is where the expansion falters a little. The Tuskhead and Robo-Dodo are the two new zombies here, and they're essentially just tankier versions of other zombies. Does this world really need tankier zombies when it has the Blockhead and Troglobite? I would have preferred maybe a hunter zombie veteran that throws snowballs that do damage to the plants or something like that. Anything to spice up the gameplay instead of just adding more health to zombies. Also, the Robo-Dodo doesn't fit in too well with the theme of the world. C tier. This is a great expansion and I had a lot of fun playing it. It really injects some well-needed life into the Frostbite Caves world. It's a shame that the zombies aren't too interesting, but this world still lands itself in the A tier. The night mechanic ties in well here because more emphasis is placed on the world's sun tiles. This is a nice change of pace and makes the levels more thought-provoking, unlike vanilla where you can just spam plants everywhere due to having a bajillion sun. Night 36 is a fun level, requiring you to put out the explorer zombies with iceberg lettuces so they don't burn the plants you need on the sun tiles to make 7,500 sun. This is a nice way of integrating the explorers which are now native to this world on top of ancient Egypt. Night 37 is another excellent level. You have to stop the zombies walking on the fire tiles or else the endangered coconut cannons get burnt. And just as you think you've filled your lawn with an impenetrable army of plants, some gargantuas toss imps right onto the boulder tiles, wiping out a chunk of your defenses to keep you in suspense. Riveting level design. Night 39's mold colonies on top of sun tiles generate practically unavoidable tents from the importers. The magenta skull zombie ties into this well by boosting all the zombies that the importers spawn. Day 40 holds another excellent use of the magenta skull zombie. Since the magenta skull speeds up all the zombies on the lawn, the flower line shakes up things a lot. This makes you consider using the given stunnion to stall out the magenta skull, or to use the given hypnoshroom to make your own zombies that the magenta skull also buffs to fight fire with fire. Flawless use of the flower line gimmick and the locked and loaded gimmick. The only thing holding these levels back from the S tier is that all the levels I didn't mention were pretty run of the mill. A tier. Daisy Chain and Lava Guava. Nothing to say about these guys really. They do their job well and they fit decently into the world. Oh, and Endurian has a cheaper sunk cost, which I feel it desperately needed, so I'm appreciative of that. C tier. The addition of the Explorer zombie to this world is nice and it fits in better thematically here than ancient Egypt, obviously. The Magenta Skull zombie also has a lot of good appearances where its gimmick is used well, especially in combination with the importer as I mentioned earlier. Apart from that main interaction though, I feel like it doesn't really do too much to complement the other zombies, such as the bug zombies and relic hunter zombies which don't really need speed or health buffs as they are. B tier. I feel confident in my ranking for this expansion. The levels were great, the plants were ordinary and the zombies were pretty good. A solid B tier expansion. Day 35 is an interesting level where you have to preserve as many magnet rooms as possible as your main means of dealing with the excessive punk zombies and bucketheads. Additionally, the arcade zombies here never actually get their jams, so they're purely used as bulky shields, which is a unique way of using them, reminiscent of how Big Wave Beach Day 39 uses as surfers. Day 40 is a fantastic level that makes near perfect use of the arcade zombies. The level has 2 endangered plants with 2 arcade machines in those lanes. As the level progresses, the video game jam spawns 8-bit zombies from the arcade machines, threatening the plants in those lanes. However, you eventually realize that an even bigger threat is the threat of the arcade zombies crushing the endangered twin sunflowers. This is because arcade zombies start pushing their machines that then push the arcade machines that are already there, kinda like how troglobites push groups of ice blocks. This is a unique gameplay loop that kept me on the edge of my seat for the whole level. This level is also great for introducing gum nuts since it can be used to stall clumps of 8-bit zombies or stop the arcade zombies from pushing their machines any closer to the endangered plants. The highs in this expansion's levels are very high, but were few and far between. Sure, not every level has to be mind-blowing, but only having a 2 levels worth mentioning here out of 10 isn't something I would attribute to an A or S tier ranking. B tier. Gumnut was an absolute peak plant choice for this world, and I can't emphasize that enough. It synergizes so well with this world's plants and zombies that it feels like a natural fit, which is really ironic given how the actual vanilla plants felt. Gumnut holds zombies in place for Fatbeat and Celery Stalker to chip away at them. It holds them still while Electric Blueberry recharges. It stops the Goth Punk zombie dead in its tracks. It stalls out the arcade zombie so it can't push its arcade machine any further, and the Boombox zombie so it can't do its thing. But Electric Blueberry is pretty meh like it is in vanilla. But the balance changes here are also peak. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Fatbeat and Intensive Carrot are actually viable plants thanks to their buffs. Hell, I beat Day 41 with only Fatbeats and Electric Blueberries. That's like a fever dream for a vanilla player. Since Gumnut is just so great here and the balance changes literally save some plants' lives, I'm feeling an A tier. Integrating the Boombox Zombies jam as an actual jam that interacts with the zombies, namely the Goth Punk, was a cool choice. Even though the Goth Punk's kicking ability isn't original, it's still a well-designed zombie that makes good use of the existing Neon Mixtape Tour environment. The Zombot Multi-Stage Masher 2.0 is also a great zombie. I really liked the attention to detail with all the phases receiving new designs, even including references to 80s pop culture. These zombies are good, and even though they were great aesthetically, they could have had a bit more impact on the gameplay. B tier. This expansion does a good job, but it feels a little bit safe compared to the A tier worlds. The levels in zombies don't stray too far from what was already explored in vanilla. That being said, it doesn't do anything bad or unnatural either, thus the B tier ranking. Okay, now we're entering the big leagues. From here on out, the worlds and expansions are much larger than 10 levels and add exponentially more content to the game. The Jurassic Panic gimmick keeps the levels fresh and mixes things up without feeling too annoying or invasive. It also works hand in hand with the tar tiles, alternating which plants are active and which aren't. In case you don't know, tar tiles are an added gimmick to Jurassic Marsh, whereby the abilities or attacks of any plant in a tar tile are disabled. Day 37 is a great level that makes awesome use of the tar tiles and plants like garlic and fat beet. Again, this mod is really good at making certain plants great again. Day 39 is another fun one, utilizing the mechanic of Hot Date dragging zombies into its lane to make the endangered Hot Date a lot more vulnerable, so you have to work against your own plant. Day 43 is a fun level that reminds me of Zombie Nimble Zombie Quick from the first game. Day 46 is another excellent level that uses the tar tiles and Ankylosaurus in a creative way. The Ankylosaurus pushes the plants so that they alternate in and out of the oscillating tar tiles, constantly switching up which plants are activated. The amount of new gimmicks and twists and turns in these levels is delightful. I just wish there were a couple more memorable levels to really drive the expansion home, especially since the expansion has 16 levels instead of the usual 10. A tier. Hot Date is an excellent choice here. It interacts greatly with the new tar tiles and with pulling zombies away from dinosaurs. It's also the perfect counter to the fossil heads and amber heads since its damage pierces armor. It also feels like a natural counter to the egg stealers and rock carriers since it kills them before they can drop their eggs and rocks respectively. Parsnip is another awesome pick here since it gels seamlessly with the tar tiles. Placing a parsnip behind a tar tile just feels right, plain and simple. Hocus Crocus is yet another great fit here. Despite seeming mildly out of place visually, its functionality perfectly works against the fast-paced frenzy of dinosaurs shoving tanky zombies down a lawn. The Reflourished team could not have picked a better lineup of plants for this expansion. They could have just gone with the cold snapdragon and grape shot and called it a day, but they really went the extra mile to think of which plants complemented the new content here the most. And I haven't even mentioned the plethora of good balance changes made to all the primal plant variants. S tier. With a whopping 4 brand new zombies in this expansion, there's no shortage of variety here. Yes, some of them are from 2C, but for the vast majority of players who haven't played 2C, these guys are basically new. The Eggshell Imp is an alright addition, but it doesn't really change up the gameplay much. But I can give it a pass for having perhaps the best Almanac entry so far. Even better is the Egg Stealer Imp, whose fast speed acts as a nice counterbalance to the slowing of the tar tiles. The Rock Carrier Zombie is another good addition. Not only are its visuals amazing, but its gimmick of dropping a bulky rock upon death strongly encourages use of the added plants in the expansion. Hot Date kills it without letting it drop its rock, Parsnip isn't ranged so the rock doesn't block its attacks, and Hocus Crocus sends it to the front of the lawn so its rock has less of an impact on blocking plant attacks. Vanilla Jurassic Marsh seriously lacks zombie variety, and the Reflourished team has gone above and beyond to stamp out this issue. It's very clear that lots of love and effort was poured into crafting this definitive Jurassic Marsh experience. S tier. Day 36 is very creative in using frozen glitter zombies purely for their invincibility effect and does a good job of showcasing the new and improved Aloe. Day 38 is another great one. You have to use hot potatoes to thaw out gold tiles to meet the sun goal, but at the same time balance the risk of importers squatting on those tiles. This is some invigorating level design. Equally so is Day 39, which uses football mechs and oscillating tar tiles to alternate which plants are active and which plants aren't, much like the Ankylosaurus did in Jurassic Marsh Day 46. Day 40 is yet another exquisite level, using an endangered moonflower on a minecart that you have to move around to activate certain lanes of endangered nightshades. All the while rodeo legends, relic hunters, and turquoise skull zombies threaten to massacre them all. Day 41 throws together basically every lane-changing plant, gimmick, and zombie from every single world. You have garlic, you have hot date, you have minecarts, you have pianists, you have slider tiles, and you have zombies bouncing around absolutely everywhere. And then the pesky dodos and robo-dodos just to go nope to all that. Even Day 42, the Gargantua battle, is a pleasure to play. They basically throw every kind of zombie at you and a bunch of assorted plants from various worlds, not to mention every kind of portal imaginable too. The constant Jurassic panics keep switching which plants you have on which power tiles, which is a great mixture of 2 different world gimmicks. Day 45 has super fan imps and sandstorms that go all the way into your lawn to kill a few of your plants occasionally. This is a great way of weeding out some of your defenses on the zombies part, reminiscent of the Bungie zombie from the first game. Day 48 is yet another unique level. This time every zombie spawns with sun inside of them, drops when they die, kind of like Sunbeam or Raw Zombie. And this is your only source of sun for the level. Day 49 is a complete mess, throwing every gimmick and zombie at you all at once, but a fun mess nonetheless. Day Day 50 is a great final boss. I loved all the references to the first game, and it was a pretty tough level with heaps of different mechanics used throughout. I especially liked the combo of portals and stegosauruses to push the zombies further out. Zomboss really steps up his game for this battle, as he should, unlike the vanilla modern day battles where they were very lame in comparison. I will say though, this level is maybe a bit too difficult. I had to use power-ups just to beat it, the only level in the whole mod so far where I had to do this. Maybe that's just on me though, I don't know. The levels in this world are spectacular. Banger after banger after banger. S tier. The 3 plants added here are all obvious shadow plant choices. As such, they complement the existing shadow plant cast well. I would give these plants a B tier ranking, but much like Jurassic Marsh, basically the whole cast of existing modern day plants were buffed, nerfed, or reworked. This makes the plant experience a lot more fresh and balanced here. A tier. I was pretty disappointed that there weren't any original zombies here like there were in the Jurassic Marsh expansion, but the many fun and creative ways otherworld zombies are used makes up for that. Still though, it would have been nice to see something more than just the vanilla recycled Sunday Time zombie in a 16 level long expansion. B tier. This is a great ending to a great run of world expansions. I feel like the merging of all of previous world's features is a lot more thorough than vanilla modern days, creating a chaotically creative and sometimes even bizarre experience. A tier. I'd call myself a fan of the presents gimmicks and the alternating holiday themes, but the whole holiday drinks gimmick just doesn't really do much for me. They're essentially reskinned evil potions with slight variations in their buffs of each holiday theme. They do make some levels feel unique, but holistically they cover territory already charted by the evil potions, magenta skull zombies, etc. Day 6 is interesting for an Infinity fight, but Infinity was so weak that I couldn't even tell which one was him in the final wave before he died. Mildly disappointing. I like Day 10's gimmick of buttering 25 zombies to encourage you to use Kernel Pult, a food-based plant in the food fight themed level. Pretty smart stuff. Oh yeah, and the food fight zombies are resistant to Kernel Pult's butter, so there's that. Day 12's Cake Tank fight is pretty cool, but much like Infinity, I would have liked to see it expanded upon a bit more. As it stands, it's basically just a few extra zombies added to the final wave. Day 23 is a pretty fun one where you have to let the holiday drinks wrap up zombies into gift boxes 35 times, but the level throws a bunch of troglobites at you that can push those wrapped up zombies forwards. Day 24's Z Mech mini boss is the first one that actually feels like a mini boss. With missile attacks and zombie teleportation, this fight feels a lot more authentic than the 2 that came before it. Day 28's present grave busting minigame was a welcome surprise and a pleasant change of pace. Day 30's Professor Brainstorm fight is another underwhelming one. He kinda just spawns a few zombies here and there and switches around lanes. He was dead before he knew it. Day 36's Multiplicity battle is actually really tough, too much so in my opinion, and feels like a full boss battle, albeit the visuals are just upscaled or downscaled imp sprites. I like the Day 42 Zombert battle. It feels like an actual mini-boss battle this time and is quite tough, but not as overly tough as Day 36. Day 44 was definitely the most interesting level this world had to offer thus far. It's quite tricky and took me a few attempts and a bit of problem solving to finally beat it with jack-o'-lanterns and sweet potatoes. This is because only bug zombies spawn in the middle lane, which has a floor covered in endangered potato mines. So you have to attract them out of the lane with sweet potato before killing them. For the same reason, you have to attract chickens and weasel zombies to the outer lanes. A very innovative way of using these 2 plants. Day 45 was interesting because the overstuffed zombie can eat the endangered spikeweeds. Day 48's Zomboss battle is incredible, combining elements from all the different holiday themes. A mashup, if you will. Overall, these levels are decent, but the difficulty feels a bit all over the place. Some levels are easy, some are roadblocks, some boss levels are easy, some feel straight up impossible. But perhaps the biggest factor dragging down my ranking here is the sheer quantity of levels. This world has 48 levels, with barely any memorable ones to show for it. If they cut out a lot of the filler levels and halved the length of this world, hell, even just shaved off 10 or so levels, it would have felt a lot less repetitive. Towards the end of this marathon of levels, I just wanted to move on to Steam Ages, to be honest. C tier. I like how Sapfling acts as a counter to the stun-resistant holiday zombies. I also like how Ghost Pepper works well with the presents gimmick as a present removal tool. Cactus fits in well with the holiday drinks gimmick as it turns into a spikeweed as sped up zombies run over it. It also works well with the presents gimmick obviously since its shots strike through them. Blooming Heart's gimmick is good at taking down the health boosted zombies from certain holiday drinks. None of them really gel well with the Z-Corp zombies though. Sweet Potato and Strawburst are pretty standard here. Jack-o'-lantern works well with a presents gimmick. It also complements Sweet Potato pretty well, I guess. B tier. A vast majority of zombies in this world are reskins of existing zombies, which I'm not a fan of. It kind of makes it feel like modern day Part 3 instead of its own world. Well, I tell a lie, they aren't one-to-one reskins. These zombies also have special holiday spirit resistances to certain plant effects depending on their associated holiday. This is pretty cool and on paper makes you have to consider which kind of holiday variant you're coming up against. But in practicality, I kinda just didn't pay attention to these abilities and played the world as normal, without facing any consequences. A lot of the holiday variants have great visuals. I especially like the designs of the St. Patty's Ra zombie, Haunting Breakdancer, Computer Head, and Snowball Thrower. As for the actual original zombies here, the Fishy Imp is decent I guess. It doesn't affect the gameplay much, but I totally understand that because if its stats were tuned a little higher, I can definitely see it going from pleasant addition to an annoying nightmare shredding through all of your plants. The Zombie Witch is a pretty cool addition and reminds me a lot of the balloon zombie from the first game. It was so trippy watching the overstuffed zombie eating spikeweeds. Like, that just goes against every law of the Plants vs Zombies universe. I like it. The Taco Imp is cool, nothing else to say about it really, it looks cute I guess. And that's it for the original zombies, not including mini-bosses. Do you see the problem here? 4 new zombies in 48 levels. That's 1 new zombie every 12 levels. This is another reason I think this world is too long for its own good. Just quickly before we move on to the mini-bosses, I want to talk about the Z-Corp zombies. Why are they here? I know the mod kind of explains it through Dave and Penny dialogue, but I just feel like they were thrown in to help fill out the 48 levels. In my opinion, a standalone Z-Corp world could be cool, but that can't really happen now. As for the mini-bosses, I think they're a great concept, especially to break up such a long world, but they aren't executed perfectly to say the least. I briefly touched on them in the level section, but long story short, Infinity, Cake Tank, and Professor Brainstorm all feel too weak to put up an interesting fight. The Z-Mech and Zombert feel like great well-rounded bosses, and Multiplicity feels way too overpowered. I don't know if I'm just bad at the game, but I couldn't beat this one without power-ups after many attempts. So overall, I'd say the mini-bosses are a good addition to the zombie cast here. It was nice looking forward to seeing which mini-bosses you face every 6 levels. Are they perfectly balanced? No. But does this subtract from their coolness? Not too much. B tier. Holiday Mashup is a solid world. I just feel like not enough original content was added to this world to carve out its own identity or justify its level count. Sure, it is just meant to be a mashup of holiday themes, but with 48 levels, I feel like a lot more could have been done here. That's not to say it's a bad world, in fact I consider it a good world, hence the B tier ranking.
Cause I live in a shithole! Do you know what I mean?
First off, the soundtrack is great, especially the Ultimate Battle remix. The manhole gimmick is a cool idea, spawning zombies from uncovered manholes that walk backwards across the lawn. This turns the gameplay upside down, or should I say right side left, since you now have a constant stream of zombies approaching from both directions. As such, the gimmick strongly encourages you to experiment with plants you otherwise wouldn't use, like split pea or the world's new plants designed to work around them. Day 10 introduces a blueprints gimmick, which is a pretty cool way of further driving this aspect home. It also creates a lot of tense and exciting moments when backward zombies get close to the manuscripts. Day 13 is a fun last stand level where you have to work around a manhole in every single lane. Day 14 introduces a new gimmick in which you can't use the shovel or plant food. Sometimes I instinctively went to dig something up and replace it, or use a plant food to wipe out a wave before realizing I couldn't do that and had to re-strategize. The objective strikes a perfect balance between being subtle enough to not be annoying, yet significant enough to alter the gameplay in a meaningful way. I like how Day 18 revolves around electricity, even though it's not part of the world, just to poke fun at the gentleman zombie. That was pretty funny. Day 20 is a very tense level with manholes and blueprints in every lane, so you have to micromanage everything so not a single zombie slips through the cracks, which is easier said than done, especially with mechanic zombies covering the screen with their machines and clockwork zombies. Day 22 is a really fun concept. You have to use Zoybean pods to spawn your own zombies to fight against the clockwork zombies being spawned by the mechanics. Day 24 is interesting since the flower lines mean you have to stop the zombies from crossing them both ways, although I feel like the level could have been a little bit better if the beginning wasn't so insanely hard. Once you get over the initial rush of zombies, the rest of the level is pleasant though. Day 29 is a very tense level using the manholes, manuscripts, and mold colonies all together to create a frightening but unique experience. Steam Ages has a perfect balance between regular run-of-the-mill levels to introduce new features, and special or difficult levels to keep you hooked. At the end of the day, I never once felt like I was getting bored or tired of this set of levels, something that can't be said about Holiday Mashup. My only real complaint here is that Part 2 is sometimes overly difficult, but that's not enough to drag down my ranking. S tier. Cattail is a ton of fun to use and an excellent counter to the manhole gimmick. And its plant food is just the embodiment of peak. Well, when it decides to hit, that is. And even though its assets are recycled from 2C, it functions completely differently here, with a shorter range and faster fire rate designed for the manholes in particular. Vanilla is a cute little utility plant that does its job well. The Lily of Alchemy is another good plant that does a good job of working around the coal miners and their coal spills. Peanut is a pretty good fit here with a sewer gimmick. Bravo, Reflourished devs, you actually found a way to use Peanut in a world. Maypop Mechanic is perhaps the best designed plant so far. It attacks both forwards and backwards, so the backwards attacks can hit zombies coming from behind, but it changes directions and goes forwards if there are none. It kinda reminds me of the green bird Howl from Angry Birds. Lotus Root is another fun one, but by this point I was questioning why this world's plant lineup is so heavy on attackers in the mid 200 Suncost range. This is the third one. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would have liked to see a bit more variety here. For example, this world doesn't have a single use or instant plant. They could have added one and swapped out one of these 3 attackers for it. That being said, this is a very minor issue, and the abundance of attackers is also kind of a good thing because you're incentivized to experiment and change up your setup very often throughout the world. Overall, these plants are great additions, and the Reflourished devs did a flawless job of porting them over from 2C. They're all well balanced and interact greatly with the rest of the world. S tier. The Gentleman Zombie fits like a glove here. The game introduces walnuts and wall plants in general as a counter to the manholes, then immediately throws the gentleman zombies into the mix which fly over them. This keeps the gameplay exciting, even in the early levels which are traditionally easy and tutorial-like in nature. Like a lot of the zombies we'll soon discuss, it's a zombie taken from 2C, but the whole world in general originated in 2C, so you can't really complain. Oh, and I really like how comedically snobby and British the gentleman's voice lines are. I'm not sure whether they're taken from 2C or not, but either way they got a good chuckle out of me. The barrel zombie works quite nicely as a high pressure zombie that punishes you for focusing on defending the manholes more than the front of the lawn. The coal miner zombies also do a good job of punishing you for paying too much attention to the backside of the lawn. I like how the Foreman Gargantua fires its imp backwards into the end of the lawn like a prospector zombie. This adds some backwards pressure on top of the manholes. They could have just made it a normal reskinned Gargantua, but they went the extra mile. I like the furnace zombie, but at the same time I wish there was some kind of visual indicator for its explosion upon dying. It takes out all the plants around it upon death, but it doesn't have an animation that communicates this. The mechanic zombie is quite interesting and ambitious, but I felt like it was way too strong. In my opinion, it has too much health, as do the clockwork zombies it spawns. Again, this may just be me having a skill issue, but this is the impression I got while playing. The inventor zombie is a good way of incentivizing magnet shroom in a world where it fits in very well thematically and functionally, since it takes the armor off of clockwork zombies. I have mixed feelings on the repair imp. In some levels it was pleasant, but in others it was borderline satanic. For example, in day 27 I was stuck in a loop for at least 5 real world minutes at the end of the level, since 2 mechanics were on top of a repair imp's healing station, which caused the constant stream of clockwork zombies to tank so many shots that I couldn't even break through to the mechanics, with an entire lane of lotus pods, and that's including the fact that I was taking their armor off with magnet shrooms. To be fair though, this is just as much a mechanic zombie being OP problem as it is a repair imp problem. Overall, every zombie here felt good and natural, except the mechanic zombie. As I said in the levels section, the second half of this world can be brutal at times, and I believe it comes down to this one zombie. If it just had a little bit less health or a slower spawning rate, we'd have a flawless zombie lineup on our hands. A tier. The Reflourished team were at the top of their game here. Steam Ages felt like I was playing the hypothetical 12th world in Plants vs Zombies 2's Golden Age, and I know this is the exact feeling they aim to emulate. From the levels, to the plants, to the zombies, to the music, to the assets, just everything, they had me completely immersed in this feeling. Easy S tier. Obviously, Caliginous Carnival hasn't been fully released yet, but I'm still going to rank it based on part 1 of the world. Again, straight off the bat, the music is great, as is the artwork and such. Instantly you're introduced to the main gimmick of the world, the magic cards, which I absolutely love. Since these are night levels where no sun falls, you really have to take advantage of the cards to make up for your limited resources. For example, using the sun cards to make up for the lack of sun, or using the zombie cards to nerf stronger zombies down to basics. But of course, some cards are actually detrimental, like the bucket head cards, so you have to do your best to memorize which cards are where so you know whether to plant on those tiles or not. This keeps the gameplay very fresh and exciting. Memorizing the cards almost feels like a game within the game. I also like the jack-in-the-boxes. They add some craziness to the levels without feeling unfair. On top of all of this, I really like the little references and attention to detail in the world's ambience. For example, when one of your pea shooter themed lawnmowers is activated, it makes pea shooter's hyper sound from Garden Warfare. Also, the iconic Plants vs Zombies 1 laugh occasionally plays during the final wave. Night 5 is an excellent level that showcases what I mentioned before about using magic cards to make up for the limited resources. It's a locked and loaded level where you're given no sun producers, so you have to make use of potato chips, sunbeams, and the magic cards to pull yourself through the level since, again, no sun falls from the sky. Night 7 is an excellently designed level with a flower line and stilt walkers that walk right over all of your defensive plants. So you have to use the brown coat and buckethead magic cards to transform them into basic zombies so they can be stopped by walnuts before they trample the flowers. This is absolutely peak level design. Night 8 is yet another back-to-back amazing level. The gimmick of not being able to use your shovel returns here and it works deviously well with this world. At the start of the level I planted some stuff on magic cards as usual before remembering, oh wait, I can't use my shovel. So once you place a plant on a magic card, it's staying there unless it dies, even if it's a buckethead card. This level ties in very well with the theme of trickery in this world. The Night 12 magic trick-esque minigame is a load of fun and I can't wait to see how they expand on it in part 2. Night 13 has perhaps the most interesting use of the last stand objective that I've seen not only in this mod, but in Plants vs Zombies 2 as a whole. You have to plan your defense with very little sun, which means that throughout the level, you have to make use of potato chips on magic cards to get more sun to place more plants to survive. Usually these levels are just place a bunch of plants, go AFK and kick back, but this last stand level will use the world's gimmicks to stop you looking away for even a second. Night 14 is yet another banger, using mold colonies to get the most out of Twin Carni Imps and Boom Balloon Flower's abilities. So many great levels crammed into one 16 level part 1 of a world. Easy S tier. If Potato Chip has 1 million fans, then I'm one of them. If Potato Chip has 10 fans, then I'm one of them. If Potato Chip has 1 fan, that's me. If Potato Chip has no fans, I'm not alive. How can you not like this cute little fella? His plant food ability even nods to the Bloom and Doom Seed Co. Come on now. He just works perfectly as a little utility plant that you can spam and test magic cards with, especially since this is a night world that could do with a 0 sun cost plant, the purpose Puffshroom served in Dark Ages. Caramel Popcorn is good, but a step down from Potato Chip. But that's not saying much because everything is a step down to Potato Chip. Nevertheless, it is a good fit for the world, with the blue vendor zombies and jack-in-the-boxes speeding up other zombies. Caramel Popcorn is a natural answer to this. I'm a big fan of Boom Balloon Flower's addition here, and that's saying a lot since I'm a world champion tap to fire plant hater. Just the sheer amount of ways this plant complements the world is ridiculous, in a good way of course. You can use the balloons to strike the vendors to stop them buffing zombies from the back of the lawn, or the fire breathers before they get close to your plants. You can also use it to destroy the jack-in-the-boxes hidden away behind all the zombies. It works great in combination with Caramel Popcorn too, because Caramel Popcorn's slowing effect stall the zombies, while Boom Balloon Flower reloads. Combine all of this with the fact that it fits in perfectly with a circus theme, and you have a plant that feels like it was designed specifically for this world. What a great choice of plant to port here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first world to have completely original plants not ported from International or 2C, let alone 2 of them. And the non-original plant here damn well feels original to this world for how well it blends in here. Another easy S tier. The Stiltwalkers are a pretty standard addition from vanilla, as are the Carni Imp twins. The 2 vendor zombies are pretty cool and spice things up a fair bit. I was really loving the zombie variety at this point. By day 6 we'd already encountered 4 specials. Take notes, holiday mashup. The trapeze zombies are a simple but effective lot. Their application of forwards pressure to your defenses helps distract you to give time for the jack-in-the-boxes to do their thing further down a lawn. The fire breathers are an awesome zombie. Come on now, they can breathe fire, how can you not like them? And as I said in the plants section, they work flawlessly with the plants of the world. S tier. Caliginous Carnival Part 1 works. It just does. It feels so natural. All of the gimmicks, levels, plants, and zombies work so well together. This doesn't even feel like a Plants vs Zombies 2 world. It feels better than a Plants vs Zombies 2 world. The Reflourished dev team didn't just meet their goal here, but they far exceeded it. I absolutely cannot wait for Part 2 to drop, because if Part 1 is any indication, this is going to be one for the ages. And there you have it. Every world and expansion in Plants vs Zombies 2 Reflourished ranked. Huge shout out to the dev team who put this mod together. They'll be popping up on the screen now. In case you're wondering, this video took so long to make because, well, I had to play through the whole mod and write a 15-page script about it. I was also pretty busy in real life, and I know that in my 2025 update video I said I'd try to make shorter but more frequent videos. And I've kind of already contradicted that with this video, but I couldn't help myself really. I thoroughly enjoyed making this one. If you want me to do this kind of video for any other mods, let me know in the comments, as always. Anyway, I've been Koala, and I'll see you in the next one.